Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I'm going to be going through the insecurities, the six of them, double as many as, or twice as many as the number that we went through for guys yesterday. But these are the ones that are attached to ladies specifically. As a result of various studies and bits and pieces that I've dredged through in making this video, or in preparing for this video, and so as a result, I've had certain clients come and talk to me about these kind of things, and it's been very difficult for them to at the time. And so I will try and make this as delicate as possible with some of the more delicate situations. But again, I tend to make jokes anyway, and on top of that, it's a case of going, these are hard things to deal with, but they have to be dealt with. So if you're one of the very small number of women in my audience, then here's some stuff that I hope helps you. If you're one of the vast majority of men in my audience, then maybe this will give you some ideas in regards to how you can approach these insecurities and make sure that your partner, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, is going to kind of feel, and how you can maybe help them compensate. And if you're one of the people who I was talking to yesterday in regard to insecurities, maybe you can match up and work these out together through the communication that I was talking about yesterday. So again, though, here actually a good number of these more female focused issues are things that can be moved past maybe a little bit more easily just by yourself and just with a slight shift or a slight realization. But anyway, either way, if you've got either during the video or afterwards, if you've got things that you would like to share, other insecurities that I'm not discussing here, leave them in the comments, or we've got the live stream coming up on Friday, so please feel free to drop in, ask questions, drop stuff other information in there. Or if you can't make the live stream, then there'll be the comments after that as well on the video on demand, which then I will go back, take a look at, and be able to potentially put into other videos for you guys to try and help. Now, the first one, and this is one that stands out a lot, something that I've talked to friends about more than clients, to be fair, and that is that there is an awful lot more insecurity in women around their bodies, especially when during sex. Guys worry about their bodies, guys worry about their attractiveness, guys worry about their hair and all the rest of it. But when it comes to sex, the major physical concern there for guys is penises. When it comes to women, though, there's a lot more there that's focused on. Breasts, what you've got between your legs themselves, your bum. There's so much more that is usually sexualized and usually appealing to men as well. So it becomes or women, to be fair, and so it becomes a case of there's a lot more concern around that. So when it comes to this, though, one of the things that I've always said is and this is more from also my own personal experience and talking with male friends, is that if we happen to by chance find our way into your bed and we're there willingly and you've not kind of abducted us and chained us down, then at least not with without consent beforehand, then there's a good chance that we're entirely happy with who you are, how you look, what's going on. It's not a stretch for a guy to just go, there is a woman in front of me and I find her attractive. But it seems to be more of a stretch for women to go, there's a guy here with me who I like, why is and he must find me attractive to be here. That seems to be a bigger jump. There's not that appreciation of, well, you wouldn't be in this situation if someone in this situation, there are only two of you, if one of them didn't find the other attractive, it would be kind of difficult. There might be some mitigating circumstances to one extent or another in certain cases, but for the most part, there's going to be some kind of attraction there. And if it's just you've met each other and you're straight into sex, then there's a good chance that it's only a physical attraction. But the way to kind of maybe get past that is, focus on, in the moment, how you feel rather than how you look. Ask how, if what they like about you. A guy being given the opportunity to not just necessarily explain what he likes, but also emphasize the point with a little bit of exploration, is probably not going to turn that opportunity down. Just saying. And it's not. This is about two people engaging with each other intimately. Be that a fling, be it something long term. It's not about modelling. And this is the point that I made in yesterday's video for guys. It's always being perceived as a performance. The sexual act is being perceived as a performance by both sides. But for guys, it's a sporting performance to do with stamina and having the right bits that are big enough and all that kind of thing to get the job done. And on the female side, it is seen as a performance in terms of modelling or acting or whatever else. Simply put, it's not a performance, it's fun. So when it comes to the way you look, you're not there to model, you're not there to show off, you're there because someone likes you. Enjoy it. Enjoy the feelings, enjoy the playtime. That's the thing to focus on. The feelings, the enjoyment, the thrill. So the next thing that I've got on my list here is, and this is something that I don't get a lot in regards to the people that talk to me and stuff like that, but I've had it a couple of times, but apparently it's way up there on the list. So again, this is kind of a thing that's not talked about very much. And that's kind of a concern to me, at any rate. And that is that there's this big worry, this big insecurity about the fact that, women take longer to finish, on average. And apparently there's an awful lot of guilt associated with that in many instances. And the thing that springs into my mind is, yes, it can be maybe disappointing to a guy if it's a quick thing, and it's something that she then seems down about afterwards. It's not necessarily the care for it in the moment, but it's the reaction to it afterwards. Because a lot of guys nowadays will realise that they will potentially not have the stamina to keep going on and on and on and on to the same extent that a woman can. And that's, especially when it's only through penetrative sex and there's no other stimulation and it's just a kind of passionate moment or anything like that, there's not going to be that broad focus on getting each other off, which may very well be required. Because, of course, again, as I said yesterday, all people are different. Everyone has their different tolerances. There will be times, no doubt, that she finishes first. There will be times, no doubt, that he finishes first. And so, as a result, it just becomes a balancing act. It is a two-way street. And so, let's put it this way. The thing to keep in mind is, again, this is one that requires communication. You need to communicate what it takes to get you off, what you like, what you don't like, what will get you going. If orgasms are the objective here. But again, I did a video which, granted, YouTube suppressed, but I did a video a while ago about the orgasm objective and how most people seem to treat sex generally as just a preamble to just an orgasm and then it's done. Orgasms are the objective and there's nothing else. That is where this worry comes from. Because guys can just have them like that potentially, and girls take longer. Girls have more difficulty, generally speaking, reaching that final moment, that climax. And yet, that's, don't worry about it. The more worried you are, the more stressed out you are, the more guilty you feel, the less likely you are to have one. And that might be disappointing for you. It might cause you some guilt and some distress and whatever else. But also think about your partner. They're probably going to feel pretty miserable if they've just had a great time, and then you get off and or not get off, rather, I should say, but you finish the encounter. This is really hard to talk about without using finalizing words. But anyway, if you have that ending to that encounter, to that situation, and you're sad about it, you're guilty about it, you're feeling miserable, you're apologizing to him when he's just had a great time, then ultimately he's not going to feel great about it either. You know, you've potentially been absolutely wonderful. You might have been the best he's ever had, and yet then the first thing you do is get off and apologize to him, or you're feeling sad because you didn't finish, and you might not have even given him the opportunity to make it up to you yet. You know, there are an awful lot of guys who will, if you've not finished beforehand, or if he's finished and then it's kind of more of, you know, he's not completely done, he's not one of these guys that just falls asleep afterwards, then he'll want to repay the favour. So don't, but you being down on yourself or negative about what's just happened because you didn't hit some arbitrary moment, doesn't even let him, you know, doesn't provide the opportunity to your partner to then provide that moment that you were looking for. Relax. Again, it's not a performance. There are no end goals. There's no nothing. The goal here is being close to someone else and enjoying yourself. Yeah? So when it comes to this kind of thing, have a conversation. What would you like them to do? What would they like you to do? You know, how would it be easier for them to do what you want them to do so that you get off and so do they? You know, have that conversation. Guys understand a lot of this, and it can be embarrassing. It can be difficult. But imagine how much fun it would be if you've got all that out in the open and there's that understanding. That's the important thing. That's the thing to kind of take account of. The next one's kind of a mechanical thing, but it's a mechanical thing that causes, apparently, a lot of concern. And I've only come across a concern like this in terms of discussion and argumentation recently, actually, with a friend. And it kind of made me raise my eyebrows, as I am wont to do when I am surprised by a thing or confused by a thing. Because apparently the situation was that girls and women have a surprising amount of insecurity about being either on the top or on the bottom. And I'll get to the bottom part in a moment, but on the top, it's apparently quite jarring because it's it's not necessarily a moment of them not wanting to be there, or even necessarily a case of them doing all the work, because there's usually a bit of give and take and to and fro in regards to who's pumping, and even when she's on top, as it were. But apparently the major concern is that because they're on top, and they're maybe more control of the angle or how all of these things are fitting together between them, there's the concern of doing it all wrong. And the chances are, just to establish this one first, the chances are that if it feels good to you, then there's a good chance it's going to feel good to them too. And this can potentially kind of lead to a lot of uncertainty or worry around being on top, when there are a lot of guys that not even necessarily like even bringing into the whole submissive versus dominant positioning or anything like that, but there are a lot of guys that are just normal guys that just like having a girl on top because having their weight bear down on them allows them to get in deeper, or because there's just a better way for them to support their own bodies so that they can thrust more effectively, or whatever. You know, there are everyone has their own personal preferences and everyone has their own difference in opinion. But then in regards to being on the bottom or underneath their partner, then, and this is the thing that I came across more recently, where there's the concern of being perceived as or talked about as if they are an inactive lover, someone that just lies there and doesn't do anything, and that apparently causes an awful lot of shame, and can cause them to act out and so on and so forth. And you know, thing that comes out from that is, again, firstly, communicate with your partner, find out where they would where they would like you, or where you would like to be. Express those thoughts. But also, sex is about give and take, right? It's about two people interacting, and that's all about give and take. There's nothing about that isn't give and take. And so, you know, it's give a little, take a little, give a lot, take a lot. You know, it's always going to be a two-way street, because if it wasn't a two-way street, it wouldn't be sex, it would be masturbation. And so, you know, it's a case of going, okay, well, you can just be where you want to be where you need to be. One time, she might want to be on top, let her be on top. Yeah? One time, he might want to be on top, so let him be. You know, it all just rolls round, which is exactly what you should be doing, and you should be having fun rolling round rather than worrying about who needs to be where and which mechanisms need to be functioning in which place at which time. It should just be fun. Relax. Doesn't matter if you're on top or on the bottom. If it doesn't feel good to you, it probably doesn't feel good to them. If it doesn't feel... if it feels good to you but they're protesting, probably doesn't feel good to them. You know, ask questions, find out what they want, what does feel good to them. That's all, you know, that's all you need to do. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now the next one's kind of another appearances thing, perceptions thing, and there are a few like this on the rest of this list over the other three that we've got here. So number 4 that we've got on the list is being perfectly groomed, you know, being well trimmed, as it were, or being trimmed or shaved to the extent that someone finds them desirable. And this is a problem for a lot of women, and you know, it's something that I've discussed with people before, friends and partners and everyone, and there's a lot of personal preference involved, and there's a bit of judgment involved here as well. But again, it comes down to conversation, and depending on what we're talking about in regards to perfect versus imperfect. You know, a girl who's maybe not shaved her legs for a couple of days is potentially... I've had people in this situation with me where they've then been really down on themselves because they've not shaved their legs in a couple of days in the middle of winter when it's fucking cold. I'm not blaming them for that. You know, I've got very hairy legs, so I'm very hairy everywhere for the most part, and so as a result, it's not something that I ever need to worry about because I've always got my fur coat to keep me warm. But as a result, I'm not going to fault someone else. Yeah, do I like smooth legs? Yes. I think that there's something particularly alluring about them. Fine. That's my personal opinion. That's my personal preference. Does that mean that I would necessarily impose on someone else about that when it's fucking cold outside, or if they've just not wanted to do it? No. You know, this is where, if I'm allowed to have my beard and maintain my hair and do whatever else the way that I want to, then they should be allowed to do the same. If however there is a question of grooming and changes to be made and all that kind of thing, then it should be an equal street. If someone is turning around to you and complaining about one hair being out of sync, or the fact that you have any hair at all in this particular situation or anything like that, chances are you don't want to be with that person. Chances are there are going to be other expectations and things that are going to be just as uncomfortable and just as pointless. But for the most part, and we're talking about a vast majority of people here, at least from my experience and from what's been found in some of the results that I'm talking about here, people don't even care. They don't. As long the biggest things that are highlighted tend to be that if there is hair down there, that it's not so obscuring that it makes intercourse particularly difficult. Yeah. That seems to be the only concern. Beyond that, for the most part, no one's going to care. Relax. You know, or, as with everything else, have that conversation beforehand. And, you know, you're in a situation where those people are there anyway with you and they want to have sex with you. Surely they'd prefer to have sex with a supposedly imperfect you, which again is imperfect to you, not necessarily imperfect to them, just to point that out. But they're more likely to want to have sex with an imperfect you rather than not have sex at all. In which case, if they are there, if they are engaged with you and you're just being hard on yourself, chances are, have a conversation or whatever else, or just relax, because chances are, if they're having fun anyway, then they want to have fun with you, and the only person that's stopping that from happening is you being stressed out. Have that realization. Take that moment and just go, I might not be exactly perfect in every way, but they're actually here with me. They seem to want something. Now the next one, this penultimate one, is one that I actually hear a lot more, which surprises me when I hear it every time, and that is about women being worried about how they taste/smell, and how they seem to think that they can smell themselves through clothes, or when they've just had a shower or anything like that, and they believe that they can smell themselves. And firstly, in regards to your partner, you probably shouldn't worry, especially if they're a man, because men tend to have weaker senses of smell overall than women. We tend to be less sensitive to smell, so we probably can't even smell it anyway. So we won't notice, we won't have our attention drawn to it unless you decide to tell us or decide to make a point of showing it to us in some way, making it apparent to us. But otherwise, for the most part, you're fine. There have been times when I've had partners turn around to me and be like, I think I smell bad. And I've been down there at the time, and I can go, no, you're fine. It's one of these things where, regardless of what people have maybe said to you in the past, firstly, the smell and taste will change on and off all the time anyway, due to your hormonal cycles, due to your diet, due to your level of exercise, due to your level of stress, due to your medication that you're on, if you're on any medication. All of those things will affect that. And if it tastes bad, you are likely to be told that it tastes bad, but that probably means in the moment, not as an ongoing thing. However, 99% of the time that I've heard these concerns from friends, from clients, from anyone else who have decided to bring it up to me, it does not seem to be accurate. When I've had friends who have been very candid and talking about this, and then their boyfriend or girlfriend at the time has turned around and gone, you are talking shit, you're fine, and then gone back to their own conversation or re-engaged with whatever we were talking about, that's probably the truth. And if someone who has been down there is telling you that, you should probably believe them. But also, let's think about this in the context of sex. There are a lot of smells and tastes involved in sexual activity, and a lot of those are abnormal and strange and would not be found in many other places. In which case, the thing that kind of stands out is that those smells and those tastes are probably, in that situational context, not bad. So again, unless someone has made a point of commenting that at this precise moment you maybe do not taste the way that you have before, or that there is something else that they need to go and do to prepare for whatever it is that they are doing down there, then that is probably just this whole situation of smelling and tasting and being worried about it. Don't be. You're fine. Yeah? Especially if it is not your partner's first time and all the rest, that they have probably encountered an entire spectrum of others to one degree or another, that have allowed them some understanding. In which case, if you are worried, talk to them about it. But then when they've actually told you that you are fine, then believe them. It will allow you to be much more relaxed in the situation and actually have some fun and actually enjoy enjoy the fact that they are down there doing something to you in the first place. You know, if you relax, you will enjoy it so much more than if you are just sat there worrying non-stop about the fact that there is someone down there in the first place. And now the last thing that stands out is again a really strange one to me, but again comes to the performing side of things. And this is that apparently there's an awful lot of worry in women that they just don't know what they're doing. They don't have this thing that hangs off the front of their body. And they can feel their own enjoyment when they're doing what they're doing. But they might not have the mechanical knowledge to tell their partner what feels good. Or where it feels good for them. Or how it feels good. Or what they would like their partner to do to make it feel good in a different way, but in still a way that makes it work for them. And so then when they're faced with something like a penis, that's a really confusing thing, because it's a completely different structure, even if it's built around similar elements, biologically and physiologically speaking. And so, again, as I was saying about guys solving their problems, their insecurities yesterday, I can only recommend here one thing, and that is communication. It is literally such a universal panacea. Communicate with your partner. You know, if you're feeling worried or shy or unsure about what to do with this thing that's just poking up in front of you, ask questions. There have been situations that I've been told about by clients, by friends, things that I've experienced, where there have been girls who have been in this situation and maybe not known what they are doing or what they want to do or how something should work. And they have decided not to ask and to just try and do it anyway. And it has at times led to things as disastrous as the relationships that they had so far had a great time with ending horribly because of just not asking a question, not finding out, and instead just trying to wing it with what they thought they knew, and it going horribly, horribly wrong. When in doubt, when feeling shy, when feeling worried or uncertain or anything like that, ask questions. You asking a question isn't a sign of weakness or a sign of you not knowing or anything like that. It's a sign that you care about what the other person is going to experience whilst with you. And again, hopefully they'll ask you back. You know, hopefully you asking a question would maybe break the ice, because again, you've got that communication block with guys that we were talking about yesterday that is more difficult for them, and yet all of their problems, all of the issues, the insecurities that men face are solved by communication. So where you've got, as a woman, having this one issue, if you have this issue of not being 100% sure of what you're doing with what's in front of you, ask the question. Hopefully they'll ask you questions back. Hopefully it'll become a really useful and pleasant discussion that then can turn into, shall we say, pleasant, intimate engagements, to be delicate with it. But anyway, that's the list of things that women are most commonly insecure about in regards to sex. I am sure that there are a substantial number more, the same way that there are a substantial number that aren't commonly referred to in regards to men that I covered yesterday. And keep in mind that there are sexual insecurities that cover both men and women that are much more nebulous, that I will be covering in a video tomorrow. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you found this interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video. But also, if you've got other things on your mind, other insecurities that I've not listed, other things that you would like to have discussed, please drop them down in the comments. Please turn up to the live stream at the end of the week. or drop in on the live stream once it's an archived video on demand on the channel, and just leave us the comments underneath, and I will try and address as many of those as possible, because I find sex and relationships and things like that fascinating anyway, but the number of people who have come and talked to me about these things is so strange to me, because obviously we go through life not really considering a lot of these things and taking an awful lot of them for granted, and not realizing some of the struggles that people go through. So when I started coaching, when I started most prominently as a relationship and dating coach, before kind of then getting more secure in the other areas of coaching that I've branched out into, it was a situation where some of the things that were being brought to me just seemed very cut and dry to me, and yet they were really deeply entrenched insecurities and worries and things like that required more than just me telling, showing you stuff like this and going through stuff and saying, actually, look, the way to do it is communicate. The way to do it is to realize why there's a person there with you. Some of these insecurities were quite outlandish, quite strange, quite built on those people's backgrounds and where they had come from. And so, if you've got other things that you would like to discuss, that you'd like to share, that you'd like to have me maybe look into, then please drop them down in the various comment sections that I've listed, or come and actually have a quick chat with me about them in the live stream at the end of the week. That'd be great. But otherwise, I'm going to stop rambling and selling myself, and thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I will see you in the video later. Take care.